Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome in. How's everyone today? Thanks for the hearts. How's everyone? Good morning. Trish is here. Becca's here. Maria is here. Vicky's here. Catberry Lane. No More No is here. Christine is here. Drifting Hippie. Trish Forever. Brooke. Who did I miss? Did I miss anyone? If I missed you, I apologize. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining. Just getting started here. Crafting with Chris is in the house. Dawn Tai is in the house. Nayla. All right. Anyone who has never had a show yet, but is approved to sell. So you are approved to sell, haven't had a show yet. Put the word me in chat. So I'm curious how many people are still hanging out. So Catberry Lane hasn't had a show yet. Everyone give Catberry Lane a follow. Tell us when, Catberry, you're planning to have your first show. You have a very nice profile picture, a beautiful logo already going. So that's awesome. Trish not approved yet. Applying soon. So what, Jan? Me, not yet. Okay, so what, Jan? So everyone that's saying me in chat, make sure you're following them. Give them a little boost to get started. Hey, Ginger Quilter, welcome in. So applying soon, Maria. So give Maria a follow. Yeah, everyone that's not, did I miss anyone? Let me see. Within 2 weeks, having a show, says Catberry. So welcome in. Um, so I was just thinking about anyone who is just getting ready or has applied, approved to sell, but hasn't started yet. I was thinking, what would my advice be to you? My advice to you would to be to go learn everything you can in a short amount of time and then just hit the road running. Um, Whatnot is still in its infancy as far as, you know, it's not a household name yet. There's still a lot of opportunity for growth. And the faster you get moving, the more time you have on that growth curve to take advantage of, the opportunity that Whatnot is. So, how do you do that? In my show notes are a bunch of star bullets. Those are the official places where you can go to get help. Please utilize those resources. Um, the first one is the Whatnot Seller account, where they do shows that are geared to help all sellers, but they have a lot of new seller content. Make sure you're following that account. And then anything that they've done on that account, the live shows, when they're finished, they post them to the Whatnot YouTube. Okay. And yes, you do learn so much just by doing a first show. And if you delay too long, because really the best way to learn it is to just, there's a few things I want everybody to know before they start, like how make sure you kind of have the basics of shipping down so you don't screw up your first show. Other than that, there's not a whole lot, you just kind of learn as you go, but please go read all the stuff. Make sure you feel comfortable with the basics and then go for it. So the YouTube account for Whatnot, they post all the past shows from the Whatnot seller account, and they have a ton of new seller content, just all the basics. So make sure you do that. And then Seller Academy, if you haven't gone to selleracademy.whatnot.com and gone through all their tutorials that go over all the basics, it's like kind of like Whatnot for Dummies content. You just go listen to everything, read everything, and get the basics down. And then any questions you have, you can just go to help.whatnot.com or frequently asked questions on the app. They're the same thing. And type in what you're looking for and you can find all the articles. Usually there's links, videos, all kinds of content in there. Good morning, farmhouse. And then the blog has kind of the background of the business, kind of the business side of things, but you learn a lot of interesting statistics and information. And then the last star bullet is the Whatnot Meetup Hub, where you can go to see if they are sponsoring a seller hosted event where you can get together with other Whatnot sellers, which is always good because you can get hints, tips, tricks, ideas, talk with people who understand what you do. All right. So please use those resources that are in the show notes to help you get started. And yeah, lots of good content there for you. All right. It looks like I failed to get my um, items in the auction tab today, which does not surprise me because I had a week. It just barely started, but I've had a week. And so I have nothing in my shop, nothing in my auction tab. My husband was in the hospital over the weekend, so he's doing much better. We're home, he's fine. But it was a long weekend, so I somehow failed to get my stuff in here. So I'm going to really quickly import a few things so that we have something in here. And let me see. So this will give you a good idea of something that you can do. Let me show you how this works. Can you guys see my iPad sort of from the side? Let me move a little bit closer, maybe, and turn it this way. Okay, so I'm in my show and I'm going to import from inventory some items. So I'm going to type in a few things so that I can find them and hopefully it will cooperate. Okay, so here's a couple of things that I can pull in. 'Cause normally I would just clone and somehow I didn't manage to get that in here. That's not the right one. Let me see what I managed to import. Okay, so I imported my Draz top 10 tips for new sellers. So let me pin that. Everyone take a screenshot of that one. So that's my top 10 list of if I were giving advice to new sellers, this is my top 10 list of things that I would want you to know. So tap the picture of the item that I pinned. Just tap it on your screen, tap it again, and then take a screenshot. Um, so it's just all my, and these are all the things you should be doing consistently, regularly, every week to keep on top of growing your business on Whatnot. And I've been on here almost 4 years, and that's a pretty long time. Very few sellers, because it's pretty new, have been on Whatnot for that long. And so as I learned how to use Whatnot and everything, there was just, and I started doing these seller chats. People were asking the same things over and over, and this list developed from that. My experience of what things will help you. And then I add new things all the time. I modify things as needed, but that's the pretty consistent um, list of things that you need to do. Okay. Let me grab just a couple of things out of Buy It Now that I can have in there so that I have something for sale, because technically, per terms of service, you're not supposed to have a show without something for sale. Vicky says, I believe you can't set up anything on a show until you are approved. Is that true? Yes, that's true. Because you don't even have, the ability to schedule shows or put anything in there yet. So, yeah, that would be true. All right, here we go. There, I've got some stickers in there. Okay, so let me see what else I can pull in here. So, and this is the example of what not to do. I was not prepared, didn't realize this stuff wasn't in here before I went live. Thank you, Catberry. I'm glad that they've helped you. So, what topic that's on that list, that top 10 list that I have pinned, what topic on there would you like to talk about? So, everybody look at that for a second and tell me the topic on there that you feel like would be helpful for you to discuss today while I get a few more things in here. Let's see. I'm looking for some of my other stuff that I always have in here. Let's see. All right, I've got a few more in here. Okay, one of the other ones that I have. All right, just getting that pinned and unpinned. Okay, so one of the other, hang on, is that still in the right view? Okay, I accidentally clicked something. One of the other documents that I have in the auction tab that I pulled in is this one. And it's the other list that I put together because one of the biggest things that people are always confused about trying to get help with is how do I get people in my shows and how do I keep them there? And this is kind of again, through my own experience, the things that you need to do regularly to try and create the best experience and atmosphere for people to want to come to your shows and stay in your shows. So it's not a hard, fast rule. It's a read this list and brainstorm what you need to do to improve your process, improve your shows, improve everything about what you're doing. So make sure you have a copy of this one. Again, just tap it on your screen, the little picture right there. Just tap that, tap it again, and then make it big and take a screenshot of that. And have that. I know a couple of people who've printed it out and have it hanging where they do their shows so that they are reminded regularly of those things that you need to be doing. So, what are they? The 5 F's. And I didn't see anyone in chat give me a specific topic. So, I'm just going to kind of go with this for a minute. The 5 F's are you need to have fun in your shows, number one. And that means something different for everybody. Everybody has a different vibe. Everybody attracts a different type of audience. Everybody has different things they do. Everybody has a different personality, a different voice. You're unique, and that's awesome. And embrace that you're unique and that you're different and that you are your own person and capitalize on the things that make you interesting and fun. So make your shows interesting and fun. I can't tell you what that means exactly. You have to discover that. And you discover that through experience in your life. Think about what in your life, has given you the talents, the abilities, the opportunities, the experience that have allowed you to come and possibly be at this point anyway. Write down, the good things. Have someone else write down for you too. What are the good things about your personality? What draws people to you? What makes you a fun person to be around? And really explore what you can do in your shows to highlight that, to emphasize that, to share the wonderful parts of you. Okay. So have fun in your shows. I think it's super important to show that you're passionate and interested and excited about what you're selling. If you go into a show and someone's just kind of like meh about what they're selling and you can tell, do you want to stay? No, because it's just kind of meh. The whole environment is meh, right? People come to this platform for entertainment just as much as they do for purchasing items. It's the new, you know, social media way to enjoy. Do I know the new rules for giveaways? So technically, Crafters Outpost, there are no new rules. The new update that they did to terms of service was just to change a few words on a few things, and then they sent it out as an update to terms of service. But the rules are the same as they always have been. It's just that nobody ever read them. Isn't that fun? So everyone's in an uproar with the rules for giveaways because they actually never read it. So what you need to do with giveaways is you need to have a little session where you go out on the wonderful World Wide Web and find what the giveaway rules are in your state and how they may differ from what the federal rules are for giveaway sweepstakes, however it's defined in your state. And then you need to post in your show notes and then maybe a little disclosure in each listing of a giveaway. Just have a copy paste the specifics that are specific to your state so that you don't get in trouble if someone pitches a fit about something. For the most part, it's the same as the federal rules, but some states have some weird things that they've put in their laws for giveaway sweepstakes. And that's why when you enter a giveaway, it always has all these rules and disclosures like not applicable in such and such a state, or in this state, you have to do this, or, whatever. That's why those are all out there because every state regulates sweepstakes, giveaways, contests in their own state. So, what I started doing, just because the whole thing got brought to light, is I have a disclosure in my show notes. And then in my giveaways, I refer people to the show notes for the rules. And I looked up my state rules, which are basically the same as the federal rules with a few exceptions. And I stated those in my show notes. So, yeah. So isn't that funny, right? Because all they did is change a few words around to clarify a few things. And really, the giveaway rules did not change it much at all, just a few reworded things. It's always been the same as it always has. Okay. And really, the basics are that you have to make sure people understand no purchase necessary. That's a big one. And that if there's any rules about age or things like that, it's stated. But no purchase necessary is the biggest one. What does that mean for buyer giveaways? Well, it's always been the case that people can click that link and go fill out a form and still win your buyer giveaways. That has not changed. Okay. No change. All right. Any other questions about that? So yeah, interesting that they sent out an email with the terms of service. The whole terms of service is one big, huge document. So anytime they make any modifications or additions to it, they, are required to let people know it's been updated periodically. And so they did that. And then suddenly it went viral that the giveaway rules had completely changed and everyone was freaking out. No, it was the same language it always has been. They just, reworded a few things. So kind of funny that we all hadn't been as diligent in reading terms of service. I know it's a huge, confusing legal document, but at least be aware of what you're agreeing to. So go read the terms of service, scan through it, make sure you kind of have a grasp of what things you can and can't do, can and can't sell, all the things you're agreeing to, cover your butt, right? All right. So that's the long and short of that. And I did talk about that on Tuesday. So I wasn't going to, maybe go into that as much today, but thanks for coming in. And yeah, so anyone that missed Tuesday's show, we kind of went over that. All right, back to the 5 F's that I'm talking about. You're welcome. The 5 F's that I have up on the screen. After, you kind of figured out fun in your shows, the next F is fast pace. You need to keep your shows running at a pretty good clip. Does it have to be as fast as some other people do? No. You find the pace that works for you. The important thing is that it's not dragging, that you don't have a lot of pauses, and that you keep it lively so that people don't want to leave, because we have very, very short attention spans. And it's just statistically every 8 seconds, if if their attention is not kept, they move on. That's how, we just have no attention span anymore because of technology. So I know that's kind of a lot of pressure, but what that's saying is you've got to have a nice clip, a nice pace. You've got to keep people's attention with how you're running your show and what you're selling, or they're going to leave and go somewhere else. And people leave and go in and out of shows anyway. But if you have things going on that's keeping their attention, they're a lot more likely to stick around and therefore then make purchases. And I'm going to add to that I think it's important that you have things that people can see, either listed in your auction and buy it now, or in the periphery of your show setup, so that they can see what's coming up. Because if they come into your show, there's nothing in view, there's nothing listed, and they have to wait to see everything, there's a pretty decent chance they're going to leave. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you understand what I'm saying? So they need to see that there's things they're going to want to see, that they're going to want to wait to see. And sometimes that's, that you're running a giveaway. They want to wait and see who wins the giveaway, and maybe they win the giveaway. Sometimes that's what you have listed in your auction. You have some really exciting, awesome stuff, and they're anticipating or requesting what you have listed. Sometimes that's you have a loaded buy it now with some awesome stuff that you're maybe running some flash sales on, and they're anticipating those things. And then the other one is they can see visually, which in some ways is the most important, that you have some really exciting stuff coming up. Okay. So they've got to have a reason to want to stay. And it's got to be going at a fast enough pace that they don't have to wait too long for all those things to happen. Okay. So, any comments on that, as far as what you need to do to make that kind of atmosphere, that kind of style happen. So having fun, keeping it at a good clip, and having things, ready and anticipation. They have it, they see it, they can maybe just go buy it right now, etc., etc. So then the third F is you've got to have good findings, stuff you've found to sell and show is what people are wanting to see. There are trends. You've got to keep on top of what's trending. Um, and that doesn't mean like sometimes people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, I am so not trendy. Well, guess what? Neither am I. But you've got to keep on top of what's trending in the category that you sell in. And I bet if I talk about some of those things, um, then you would know what I mean. So Catberry says, if I don't somehow know what seller has, then I won't stay. Yeah, exactly. If there's no way for you to kind of see what people are going to have, you're going to go somewhere else where they have more to see. So it's super important to show people what's coming up, what they're going to have the opportunity to see and buy, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And then, I was talking about trends. How do you keep on top of that? Well, you just watch. You watch, you look, you learn, you listen. Pay attention to what your customers are asking for because that's what's trending in most cases, right? What's everybody asking for? What's everybody looking for? Let me give you an example. Right now, who here is in vintage category? Say me if you sell in vintage. And I bet you can tell me right now the number one item that's trending in vintage. Okay, tell me what it is. What's the item that's selling for sometimes thousands of dollars right now in vintage? Hands on Nest was yesterday. The bee boxes and the fairy lamps, but mostly the bee boxes. Yep, that's a trend right now. I didn't even know what bee boxes were until the last few weeks. And they're trending. Everybody wants one. They're super cool, you know, but Hands on Nest are still popular, but they were trending yesterday, or what I mean by yesterday, in the past. Still popular, but not as trendy as the bee boxes. Fairy lamps, I would say, is a continuous trend. That's been there for a while, and people still want them because they're harder to find, right? Let's see, butter pats. Yep, and I love the butter pat thing. Cracks me up because everybody has arguments in shows about what a butter pat is exactly. It's like if it's not this small, it's not really a butter pat. Oh my gosh, who cares? It's a cute little dish, buy it or don't, right? That cracks me up. All right, so there you go. There's some of the trends in vintage and see how people could shout them out. All right, so I sell in fabric and crafts. Those of you who sell in fabric and crafts, what are some of the trends right now? Shout them out in chat. What are the trends in fabric? Quilting fabric. Let's narrow it down. Quilting fabric. Anything that's already quilted, okay? What are the trends in the people who buy fabric, quilting fabric? Shout them out. One of the trends is Highland cow prints. Everybody asks for them, everybody wants them. Moda brand, okay? My son says you can quilt a sock and someone would buy it. He's probably right. He's probably right. People love that look. The look of something that's already quilted and or looks like a cheater quilt. That's another trend. Prints that look like a quilt already. They're called cheaters or quick quilts. People love them. Yeah, exactly. You must have really cute socks. What the heck are bone dishes? That's a question for the vintage sellers. I'm not exactly sure. What is a bone dish? Is it made out of bone or bone china? All right. So the point here is please stay on top of what's trending so that you kind of have an idea of stuff that you need to be adding to your inventory, watching for, trying to keep and in that thinking, what are some things that you could do that enhance that trend? Meaning, if there's a trend for something specific, what are other things that are similar or related or look good with or enhance those trends that you can put um, out for offering to kind of make a new trend, you know? And it's also a lot about how you sell things that makes a difference too. You've got to really enhance everything you're selling by talking it up. What are you going to do with this? Where is it going to be displayed? What can you make out of this? Show it, tell it, share it. I mean, everything you can possibly do to enhance what you're selling. So let me give you an example. So a trend in sewing right now is an item called a kitchen boa or a kitchen scarf. And what you do is you take a piece of fabric and create like a scarf type tube, and then you sew um, dish towels onto the end of the tube, and it goes around your neck like a scarf. And then you're wearing this scarf in the kitchen with the towels in like an apron in the front of your body. And then it just makes it really easy to have your towels at hand to wipe and to grab pans and to, clean the counter, whatever you use the towels for, instead of having to lay it down, grab it up, lay it down, grab it up. And it kind of replaces an apron, sort of, because it covers the front of you, and they're really cute and they're super easy to make. So when I was showing some fabric the other day that I thought would be really cute for that, I made one of those and wore it in my show and showed people how to make it and told them where to go find the YouTube videos, what it was called. And I also sold some new dish towels I had found in one of the fabric stashes I bought because someone made stuff like that. Show, tell, enhance, really find ways to make sure people can capture the vision of what they can do with the items that you're selling. When you're selling vintage, it's super important that you have some beautiful displays that show how people can use those items, right? Where they're going to display it, how they're going to put it together with other things, how you can put some little flowers or sprigs or whatever, make vignettes, show people the bigger picture, and they're more likely to buy it, right? So have good stuff, make sure it's on trend, enhance it by how you sell it, show the big picture. So every time you have some items you want to sell, think, what's the big picture with these items? How can I sell it in a way that enhances and gives people the vision? So it's kind of like in real estate, there's all kinds of tactics that realtors use to sell a house. Sometimes they go in and think, oh, this house would look much better if it's just empty. Strategy. People are going to come in, they don't have to look at other people's crap in the house. It's empty. They can vision. Sometimes they think it's much better to stage the house, you know, empty it of all content and then stage it as if someone lives there. Sometimes the strategy is just, declutter. You already have nice stuff. Just declutter and rearrange things a little bit. Um, so it looks nice. Sometimes it's a total wreck and they sell it as is for a bottom dollar price because there's no help. And that's a strategy too. Sometimes we're just decluttering and we're giving people a bargain by bundling stuff together and giving them a big deal on a big bulk of items, right? Sometimes that's the strategy. So when you look at your items, what's the big picture? What's your strategy for how you're going to sell these items? All right. Any comments on that? Did I miss any questions? Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. So let's see. Nope, no questions. All right. I'm so intriguing. Everybody's just listening. Okay. So fun, fast paced findings. And then the last two F's have to do with what do you do after you've sold your stuff? So after you've sold your stuff, you need to have really fast shipping and provide great customer service. If you don't do that or don't have the wherewithal to be a good business owner that does good fulfillment and good customer service, you're it's going to be tough for you on here. First of all, Whatnot has requirements that you ship timely within 2 days. And after a while, if you consistently are not doing that, you can get booted off the app. So please ship your stuff in time. Here's a general rule of thumb to keep yourself in compliance. If you're planning a show and you're planning to be on for 3 hours, you need to have 3 hours set aside as soon as possible after that show to also ship that show. Personally, I think you should have, the whole 3 hours as close to after that show as possible so that it's done, you ship it. Why? Because that's when it's fresh in your mind. You're going to be able to remember, how that show went, who bought what, because sometimes you have to rely on your memory, especially if you screwed something up to remember, what happened in that show. Hopefully, you have your things all organized, numbered, whatever you do, whatever system you use. And then hopefully, if you need to rely on the um, video receipt, you can. But those sometimes aren't 100%. So, when the show's still fresh in your mind is the best time to ship, pack, and do everything because it's fresh and you've set that time aside. That's a good rule of thumb. So just think, if I have a 3 hour show, I'm going to need 3 hours to pack and ship. So I need to set aside 6 hours to do that 3 hour show. It's not necessarily going to take all that time if you didn't sell a ton, or maybe you sold a ton and it takes longer than 3 hours. Let's hope that's the case, right? So just depends, but have the time already blocked off so that you can fulfill that show. A great customer service. If people ask questions, if people message after the show and want to cancel, if people have problems, you need to have in your mind already how you're going to deal with that so that it's not a huge headache. Put your things in place, make sure you're packing things carefully, nicely. Don't even bother to sell if you're not willing to do the fulfillment end of things because it won't go well. All right. And then last F on here is frequency. The more often you're on, the more people see you, the better you're going to do and the faster you're going to grow. That's that's a no brainer, right? The more you're here, the more you're on, people will start making your shows part of their regular schedule and they'll have in their mind, oh, she's on every Monday at 6. And that will just be kind of in their brain, just like your favorite TV show. So be on there frequently, consistently, if you want people to, start coming regularly to your shows and giving you a better audience. All right, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. You guys are kind of quiet today. Am I touching some stuff that's helping you? Anything else you want to talk about specifically? Let me know. Um, Let me talk about those of you that said that you hadn't had shows yet. I would recommend that your very first show actually be a practice show, not a public show. So when you schedule a show, let me show you how to do this. So once you get your Seller Hub and you schedule a show, so we're in Seller Hub, schedule show. So I'm going to click schedule show. And one of the things in the show, after you filled everything else out on top, is that you can say show discoverability. Is it going to be public or private? So if you want to do a private show, click that instead of a public show, and you're going to be able to have a show that you've scheduled. Nobody is going to see it on the For You page in the main schedule. It won't be there because you scheduled it as a private show. And then what you're going to do is share that show only with the people that you want to attend. Your family, your friends, some people that you've trusted to help you get started. You can invite them to that show with the link. So when you're in the show, so we're in this show right now, right? And all I do is click share. So you open the show, you don't go live yet, you just click that little share button, and then you can copy the link to the show and email it or text it or share it in the messaging system on whatnot to everyone that you want to invite to that private show. It's a legit real show. And I would recommend that you have at least one of those and you invite those people and you actually run a complete show, including selling things. Now, one caution: people who live in your own house cannot buy from you. So it needs to be, someone that doesn't live in your house using your same IP address. But invite some people and ask them to buy stuff. Just put some stuff in there for $1. And it doesn't even have to be something if they, I mean, you do have to fulfill it. So you're going to have to ship it or have them come pick it up. So, however you want to do it. But it then gives you the experience of running an entire show. It's a mock show, so to speak, but live and real. So it gives you that experience. Do as many of those as you need to learn how to run a show before you actually go live to the public. Okay? That will help you a lot with all the whole process. So, yeah. Any questions about that? But also, like I said, sell some things and actually ship them so that you could do the shipping. Can I speak on super low starts versus setting price and what your thoughts are on that, especially with all the new sellers right now? So this is an auction website, right? For the most part. I mean, we can do marketplace listings where people can come on, find something, and just buy it. And you have buy it now items. And both formats are super important to help you grow. But the auction style sales that you do, everybody loves a low start. That's how auctions get people excited, right? A lower start is, there's just the magic of the low start. Does that mean you have to do them when you're new? No. It depends on your business model and your strategy. There are some sellers who come on the app, they're already set up, they've already resold on other platforms, they've done their research, they've done their homework, They have a decent audience coming with them. They do dollar starts from day one. It's their business model, it's their strategy. And they know. I mean, it's so obvious when you go into big shows that that makes a difference. That dollar start does make a difference because people get excited. Now, in a big show, like if you go into, one of the bigger sellers shows and they do dollar starts, how often does something actually sell for a dollar? Every great once in a while, it's just not something people want, or the chat is asleep and it sells for a dollar, but that's so rare, right? So rare because they know how to get the goods that people want. They run a fast paced show, people are excited. It rarely sells for a dollar. But a dollar start is a model, a strategy. So you have to decide, what's my model? What's my strategy? How am I going to make this work? If you are set up to just shoot for the stars, one of the ways that a business gets started is you almost always take a loss at the beginning to be able to build for the future. If you can do that and you're ready to go and you think you have it all, do dollar starts. Why not? Okay. If you're a slower burn and your business model is just, I need extra cash to help supplement my income and I'm only going to do shows once a week, do dollar starts make sense for you? No, because you're not the person who is committing to shows every day, churn and burn. That's not you. So it has to be what works for your business model. So and here's another thing, if you don't have at least 20, 30 people in your show, dollar starts honestly don't make sense. I mean, it only takes 2 people to bid something up. So can things still get bid up? Yes. But is most of your stuff going to sell for a low start? Yes. Or a low price. Okay. So, you have to decide what's your business model, what makes sense. Because you can also do just regular, fair pricing, still a good deal, but enough that people are going to want to bid on it, but you're willing to sell it for the price you listed it at. Make sure that if you put in a price and you don't get any bidders other than one, that you're willing to sell it for that price. If you're not, don't bother listing it. So those bigger sellers are taking the risk when they run everything for a dollar. And trust me, they have bad days sometimes. Everybody has not a great of show when they're first newer and building up. Once you're an established big time seller, you rarely have a bad show anymore because you have enough people showing up. But you can still have days that aren't as good as previous days. It just depends on what's going on in the world. And I'll tell you, there's a thing called EOM. What's the big EOM? Someone tell me. What does EOM stand for? End of month. End of month is harder than the beginning and the middle of the month. Why? Everybody's broke. Everybody needs to save their money to pay their mortgage and their rent and their car payment and their insurance. And, lots of bills are due at the beginning of the month. So people spend less money at the end of the month. Plan your shows accordingly. So do the stuff that you can afford to let go for less. Do the stuff you're trying to clear out. have shorter shows. I don't know. You got to figure it out because end of month is a true, real thing. People spend less money. You're going to have worse shows at the end of the month. So make sure that you're doing your hottest, bestest, that's not a word, shows at the beginning and middle of the month. And not the first day of the month, because usually the first day of the month is still end of month technically because they've spent their wad. They need their first paycheck. So look at when how the dates fall at the first of the month. If there hasn't been a Friday yet, they might still be broke. It's a real thing. People have to have money to spend. And, sometimes people overdo it and, don't even show up at all because they would be too tempted. But it's a real thing. Okay. All right. So you have to decide your business model. I tell people all the time, write down what's your goal? Why are you here? Why are you doing whatnot? You need a business model. You need to have a goal. You need to have a purpose for why you're here reselling. If you don't, you're just flailing around and letting whatnot happen to you instead of you happening on whatnot. Does that make sense? So have a plan, have a strategy, figure out what's going to work for you. Shelly says, I loaded an item for pre-bid, and when I saved it, I put it as buy it now in auction. It's not allowing pre-bids. Yeah, so you need to change it to an auction item. So just open that item, edit, and then change it to an auction item. Yeah, so let me show you how to do that. So, well, let me pull it up in here. Okay, so this item that I had my one item in my buy it now today. It's in, you can see it's in the buy it now category, right? I have this item is not in my auction, but if I just click the three dots, edit listing, and then I go down to the settings, and here I change it from buy it now to auction. So if I change it to auction and save, voila, that item is now, as soon as it updates to it, is now in the auction tab instead of it takes it a second sometimes. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. So it's now in the auction tab, see? Okay. And then same thing. I can just go back in, edit, and go down and change it back to buy it now. And now it's in the buy it now. You're welcome. One of my strategies for creating listings, when I'm creating a new listing, it's usually because I'm creating for a specific show. I think it's good form, this is my opinion, to just create that listing within the show that you're putting it in so that you know it's in that show and where you want it to be. So open your show. So we're in a live show. It's live right now, but you can open a show that is not live, right? So here's my show for later today. I can open that show and I can go in to the show and I can add a listing. So here I am in the show, add a listing and create a quality listing. And then you're just going to put everything in there and it's in that specific show. The default is auction when you're in the show. So if you just click that tab to add, it will default as an auction item. You can change it to buy it now or giveaway. Okay. So you decide, but that way it's in that show already there, ready to go. Let's see, it has reserved for auction toggled and I can't untoggle it so people can pre-bid. So just see, it has reserved for auction toggled on. Right. So go in the show, open the show that it is in. Well, maybe you don't have it in a show yet. So you should be able to just toggle to auction instead of buy it now and then assign it to a show. So that's the problem is you created it on your profile, not inside a show. And so it's just sitting on your marketplace as a buy it now item. So you change it to auction and then it will force you to tell them which auction you want to assign it to, which show. And then when it's on auction, auction items don't have a reserve because that's a setting only um for buy it now items. Thank you so much, Bo Hunter, for the raid. Let me pull you up here. So Bo Hunter, why is it not showing on this screen? That's weird. All right, so Bo Hunter, everyone give Bo Hunter a follow if I can find you on here. That is so weird. So on one of my devices, it shows that you rated. On my other device, it does not. Bo Hunter, tell us what you sell. Shout yourself out in chat so that I can click your name and pull up your profile. Thank you so much for the raid. There you are. Okay. Still not showing you on this screen. So yeah, go and fix that. There we go. Bo Hunter says, I sell a little bit of everything. I have antique ends and odds things you can't get anymore, things that are far off in the past. So very cool. And Bo Hunter is a new seller. That's exciting. All right, so I just put them in chat. Everyone give Bo Hunter a follow. And we're going to go view your profile. So here is Bo Hunter's profile. So Bo Hunter, I'm just going to give you a little bit of advice. Get some stuff in your profile logo and have more shows scheduled because we can follow you, but we have no shows we can bookmark. You should always have multiple shows already scheduled. So everybody follow Bo Hunter. And Bo Hunter, if you want to add another show while you're in here, we can have everybody bookmark that show. And welcome to Whatnot and Selling. Congrats for having your first show. Hope it went well and you feel good about getting that under your belt. So thanks for joining us. Hey, just the fact that you had a show and figured out how to raid, that's a win, right? So awesome. Fiber and Forge says, hello, I'm a new seller, or I'm a seller. Thank you for allowing us to shout out. Of course, please shout yourselves out. This is a seller chat. You know, you can shout out your shows, share your shows in here. I don't know that it's necessarily going to equate to a whole lot, but you can definitely get some new followers. Please follow each other and bookmark each other's shows. Sass and Style says, I have a question regarding followers. What is your suggestion on following people back sellers versus just shoppers? Does that change the algorithm? So having a lot of followers and having a lot of bookmarks does matter because the algorithm favors shows where there's shown to be a lot of interest. You have a lot of followers and you have a lot of bookmarks. So that does matter. Does it matter bottom end as far as how many people actually come to your show and buy from you? That's a different question, right? Because you can get a ton of followers just by networking on the app, but if none of them actively buy in the category that you sell in, it's not going to equate to a lot of sales. Same with bookmarks. Bookmarks just indicate that people have, bookmarked your show sometimes just as a courtesy, hopefully more and more increasingly because they actually want to come to your show. but it does help put your show higher up in search if you have a higher amount of bookmarks. So whether they're legit bookmarks or not, it still helps. And then the people who actually want to attend and come to your show are more likely to see it because you're up higher in search because of the number of bookmarks and followers. So, that does help. Faye is in the house. How are you today, Faye? And Becca's sewing table. All right. So, what do you do if you can't make it to your own show? Then you reschedule it. So, you just open your show. So, if you suddenly have something come up and you're like, crap, I'm not going to be able to do this show, don't panic. Just open the show on your screen, right? And then you're going to click the little dots. So this kind of hidden in this one because it's blending in. But you click the three dots and you hit edit show. So this is the show I have scheduled for tonight. If something comes up and I can't make it, then I edit show and I just go in and change the date or the time. Now, the algorithms do kind of, if you go in 5 minutes before the show's supposed to start and reschedule it, it does kind of mess with the algorithms a little bit. And if you do that frequently, it kind of trends. The trend is going to be that the algorithms will not favor you because you're constantly rescheduling. So try not to constantly reschedule. But if you have to do that, that's all you do is reschedule the show. It's not a bad idea if you had, people interested, lots of bookmarks, to put a comment in the show to say, family emergency, had to reschedule, something like that. Okay. And always reschedule. Don't cancel a show. You can technically go in, edit show, cancel show, and it disappears. I don't recommend doing that because then you lose the bookmarks you had on that show. So just go in and reschedule it. All right. So on that comment, what's your thought on paying for a shout out to other sellers' shows? I personally, it depends. I personally think it's kind of a waste of money. If you're in a big time sellers show and they have an opportunity for you to buy a, you know, gift for chat or buy a shout out, there's a few sellers who really pump it up and really promote you, and you'll get some followers and you'll get a few bookmarks. But is it worth your money? In my honest opinion, no. I think it's because first of all, if it's not in your own category, they're just loosey goosey follows and bookmarks. They aren't people who are actually going to come and stay in your show. If it's your own category and they let you buy to promote, it could be a little bit more beneficial, but only if they're a seller that you watched and you feel like they legitimately take the time to really promote you and share and show, shout you out. Like they actually take the time to open your profile, show people, and, tell everyone to bookmark it. If it's just someone who's blowing and going and all you get is a hey, thanks so much for the gift to chat. This is sponsored by so and so. Please go follow and bookmark. If it's limited to that, probably not worth your money because people just aren't going to do it. You know, I've always had a bad taste in my mouth about it. I feel like, you know, it really isn't worth your money. And I feel bad for people when they go spend $50, $100 paying to promote in shows where it really isn't going to do them any good. There's a few out there that really do take the time, make it worth your money, shout you out, pull up your profile, and it might be worth it. So I'm just going to caution you on that level. So if you're tempted to do that, make sure you've watched to see how it works and how they do it, and it's worth your time and money. Okay. Yes, it definitely benefits the person's show much more than the person paying for recognition, because then they get, the attention and they get the money from you paying for whatever it is. Because they're going to double charge. If they put a $25 gift card in there, it's going to be a $50 purchase for you to buy that to gift to chat. So, yeah, I think it's much more important to try and build a legit, honest, true following of people who want to follow you. So Lil Huey says, I take pride in my followers because every one of them chose to follow me on their own. Yeah, much more organic, much more, natural. They wanted to be there, they wanted to follow you. So networking is huge. Try to do it in a way that, really is going to make a difference. So be in other people's shows as a participant, as a buyer, as a contributor, as a moderator, offer to moderate. Being a moderator for other people can get you much further because you're limelighted all the time because you're making comments, you're helping monitor chat, and the seller is grateful to have your help and will shout you out. So offering to moderate, maybe find a buddy and you moderate for each other and help each other grow together. That's much more organic, you know. And, on that point, please try to be more community minded than competition minded. Because the way this platform was built, it was built to have people, share and collaborate and, really build a friendly competition versus a strict, hardcore competition. Some of the categories are much more cutthroat with competition than others. But, I think people get a lot further. Sorry, frog in my throat. Get a lot further as a seller by being more community minded than if you're cutthroat competition. People appreciate it when sellers are nice to other sellers and help build other sellers up versus being super, cutthroat with competition. So, yeah. Yeah, we have an amazing community in the fabric and craft arena. For the most part, everybody builds everybody else up, um, with few exceptions. Are we competing? Technically, yes. But everybody has a different vibe. Everybody's on at different times. Not everybody has exactly the same inventory at the same time. Focus on your own business, your own goals, what you want to do to grow, and then be community minded and supportive by raiding and networking and being in raid trains and all the other good stuff. Okay. Let's see. Anyone can go follow 100,000 people and get 10,000 followers back, but those aren't genuine followers. Exactly. DL says, liquidation says, I'd rather make $1 and a friend rather than $5 one time buyers. Exactly. You want people to come back. And people don't like it if there's a bad vibe in your show. You have to remember that people are coming to Whatnot instead of the other stuff they used to do. They're not binge watching Friends anymore. They're on Whatnot. They're not, you know, on some stupid game on their phone anymore. They're on Whatnot. So, what are you going to do to make their time on Whatnot enjoyable? And they want to come back and they want to come back to your show. Okay. So, make legitimate, genuine followers and buyers that want to be in your shows. Yeah. Super important. And let's see. Lynn's Vintage Village would love someone to mod. So if someone wants to mod, it looks like someone already said they would love to. Okay, there you go. So you just made a connection. That's the way to do it. And I would just say be careful, make sure when you um ask for people to mod that you can look and see that they're a trusted seller. They have good reviews. They've sold enough that they're going to know what the heck they're doing. You don't want to give some control to a moderator that you can't trust. Okay. So, but moderators are huge. They're a huge help. They're a huge, way to really up your game in your show to have someone help you run the show. So if you don't have a person that your partner, your sister, your brother, someone that helps run shows with you that can also mod, recruit somebody. Find someone that wants to do it. All right, so awesome. Yeah. So, and honestly, I would say overall, I have felt like, probably about 90 to 95%, depending on the category you're in, of the people selling on here are just awesome, amazing, nice, genuinely good people. We have our bad eggs here and there, but everybody's excited to help lift everybody else up. I am happy if everybody is successful. That is the honest 100% truth. I want everyone who wants to be successful on this platform to be successful. If I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't give my time doing these seller chats. I want everyone to be successful because everybody can if they put in the time and the effort to make it happen. Sass and Style says, throughout my whole show, I always say, please come in as a stranger and stay and leave as our friend. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good mantra. People want to be there because, of all the factors, but ultimately they feel a connection with you. Make those connections. Some of my very best friends, people that I consider my best friends today, are people I've never met in person that I've met on this platform. I'm connected with them outside of the app now. We text, we talk, we chat. I know things about their lives. I pray for them. I cheer for them. I cry when they have problems. So you can make those connections. And let me tell you a little story. So this is probably about a year and a half ago. I was in a late night show with one of my favorite late nighters when I can't sleep. And she was interviewing another seller, and they were talking about kind of just the atmosphere of the platform and so forth. And they were talking about how, there's a lot of people who are on the platform who are lonely. And that a lot of people that come on here, they're coming on for connections because they don't have immediate family. Maybe they live alone, they aren't married, they aren't partnered, and they're lonely. And she had a decent audience. I want to say 100 to 150, maybe 200 people in the show. And she turned to the audience. She said, if you are one of those people that often feels lonely, put a number one, just a number one, digit one, in the chat. I literally got choked up because I swear to you, like 80 people put a number one in the chat. So a lot of times your audience is here because you have made a friend. They like to spend time with you. They're lonely. What can you do to make their life better? Even if they can't afford to buy anything, they're hanging out in your show because they like you. They like your stories. They like your personality. They like that you're kind. You make them feel better. What are you doing to make the world a better place? Maybe that, maybe you had no fathom that you would be doing that in addition to trying to make a little bit of extra money on this platform or whatever your goals are. But yeah, yes, exactly. Your mom used to watch QVC because of the hosts. They made her feel good. She was lonely. People bought, and you can find storage lockers full of QVC purchases because people were lonely. It's so true. It's so true. Yep. So make people feel better, have an environment that's open and friendly, you know, give some things back that aren't necessarily something someone had to purchase. Sometimes the gift is making someone feel better, right? So Shelly says, I always say if I made one person smile today, then I did my job. Absolutely. You know, life is hard. Life is hard. If you look at other sellers and you think their life is not hard, you're wrong. Life is hard for everybody. So make life a little bit less hard by how you run your shows. I know, plant. Me too. I mean, I get emotional about this stuff, but it's so true. You know, everybody has crap. They come here to forget about their problems, to feel better, to connect with someone who makes them feel better about their life. Do that, and people will keep coming back. And yeah, I agree. Sometimes people don't even realize how lonely they are. They can have a house full of people, and if their relationships at home are a mess, they're lonely because they don't have good relationships, and maybe you're the only thing, keeping them grounded right now. Sad but true, right? And you're not a psychotherapist. You don't have to. And then please don't try to, help people in that way necessarily. You just do it by being kind, being nice, being honest, being legit, being genuine, all the things. And it's going to help people. Crafting with Chris says, my dad shopped on TV for coins. And thinking back, maybe it was because he was lonely. Yeah, absolutely. Pretty good chance of that. And on that same note, what can you do outside of Whatnot to also make the world a better place? Be a good neighbor, be nice to people everywhere you go, because life is hard. Life's too short to not be nice. Don't get old and regret that you were a grumpy, rude person your whole life. Get to the end of your life and be happy because you made a difference. You were kind. Because you never know when you did make a big difference. That smile, that hello, that let me buy this for you, that I let someone into traffic, whatever made a difference. Be nice. All right. Wow. That was a good discussion, but I'm starting to get a little bit choked up here. Okay. So, yeah, but you're here on a platform, whether you like it or not. That's a big part of the platform. Recognize it, embrace it, go with it, improve yourself, improve other people, make it a good experience. And it's going to go a lot further. All right. Fiber and Forge says, I like being on Whatnot because I meet people with similar interests. My husband doesn't understand this passion. He's not into what I like. Yeah, and that's big. If you don't have family members who enjoy the same things you do, which isn't, that's pretty normal. Everybody has different likes and dislikes. Um, you can find connections on this platform for what you're passionate about, and it gives you an outlet to have that time with people who are like-minded. That's awesome. Because maybe before you felt kind of isolated in your passions and your hobbies and your things that you love, and frustrated about it, and now you have a place where you can come. And most sellers have social media outside of Whatnot where you can also, interact, share. In the fabric crafting community, we have tons of Facebook groups where people can share the stuff they're making. And it's awesome because, you can go on and post, look what I made for my granddaughter, look what I made for my husband. And people will give you all kinds of praise. It makes you feel great and gives you an outlet to share. So make sure you're also interacting that way as much as possible to give people, an arena where they can share. Faye says, I've been selling forever and never had this kind of support. Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the other platforms, it's just kind of like, list your stuff and, network with and share as much as you can on social media, and then just hope people come buy your stuff, right? Here, it's a whole interactive experience, more so than sell. It's just not really going to work for you because it's all about the whole experience of going live, doing the shows, and then having people buy from you. Listing in the marketplace is fine, and you should have that because it enhances what you're doing, but it's not going to be successful all the way around if you're not doing live shows with it. It just is a fact. So, yep. All right. I need to get going here pretty quick. Let me know if you have any specific questions. Hopefully, this was a good session for you, give you some information, help you out, and motivate you. And everybody has a bigger heart this morning for a minute because we just had that big discussion about, being kind and really helping create an environment for those who need a lift. And honestly, you could go on and be kind of in a grouchy, not so great mood, going live anyway to be consistent. And by the end of the show, you're having a much better day. I hope that's true. Kindness always wins. Exactly. Exactly. All right. Lil Huey says, I sell all kinds of stuff, mostly cards, comics, toys, but recently came across a unit of crafting stuff. I'll make a show for you to bookmark. Oh, awesome. Yeah, we love all the crafty stuff. So do you so you buy storage lockers and then you sell whatever you get? Mostly selling cards, comics, toys, but has a bunch of crafting stuff to sell. So yeah, just put it in the um arts and craft category, And yeah, we can all bookmark it. So when you have that schedule, come back. I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday mornings on my treadmill. And then once a month, I do a community support team show that is a specific topic. And if you miss any of those shows or miss any of these shows and want to rewatch them, in my show notes, I multicast onto YouTube. So my YouTube is at Draz on Whatnot. And you can go to YouTube, and in the lives on YouTube, you can rewatch any of my seller chats that you missed. Just is having my first show tomorrow at 4. Can everyone please click on Just, follow? Let's go view profile. Okay, so Just J77 is Jorge Ordantenta. Did I say it right? And let's see, passionate about vintage finds, unique collectibles, custom apparel, one-of-a-kind art pieces, reselling clothing, records, plush toys, music. So all the stuff. Tomorrow is just the very first show, 3 p.m. All right, so just, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. First of all, get more shows scheduled before that show tomorrow. Because if you don't have more shows that people can bookmark when you have that first show, you're missing out on a bunch of potential bookmarks. Because if they come in and they love you and they love what they see, it's going to be very hard for them to find you again if you don't have more shows that they can bookmark. So get a bunch more shows in there that they can bookmark. You can schedule 10 at a time, and you can always move them around if you need to. So get a bunch more shows in there. And then let's see. Some people have told me they like this amount of content to read. I prefer a little bit shorter, maybe say the same thing, but a little bit shorter. Just so that it's not, you don't have to read through a few huge paragraph. But yeah, looks good, other than the fact that you need some more shows. Okay. And then let me just see if you have some items listed in your shop. Yes. Okay. That's important when you're new. So we can already see some of the listings that Jorge or George has, so that we can kind of see what stuff we're looking for that are going to be in there. So we've got some really nice items already listed. So that's important. So make sure you have those. Awesome. And congrats. And hope it goes super well for you. And yeah, get some more shows in there. You are welcome. All right, let's go raid into someone else. And let me just make sure. Oh, I will tell Bert hello. Thank you, Faye. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Wolf Pack. I need advice. Can someone please help me out? What do you need, Wolf Pack? If it's something you can't shout out in here, just message me and I'm happy to try and help you. All right, I'm just looking to see if I missed anything else. Any new information on the new GEMS program? It's still in beta in other countries, so I don't have any updates on that. Let's see. All right, I think I addressed everything. All right, let's go find someone to raid. Truly Materialistic is 22 away from 1,000 sales. Corner Threads is 494 away from 1K. Awesome. Truly, you're so close. I'm sure it's going to happen on the very next show. That's awesome. So everybody give Truly Materialistic a follow if you're not already following, and please bookmark upcoming shows. So your next show is 4/1 fresh off the Bolt Fabric sales. So I'm sure you'll need it in that show for sure. That's awesome. Congrats. All right. Let's go raid. Oh, you're going to do a pop up today. Well, you might hit it today then. That's awesome. All right. Let's go find someone to raid. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a marvelous day. Make it a great day and be kind. Let's see where we're going to go. Let's see. Let me see if we have someone new on in a category I want to go into. Rating is a huge part of being a community-minded seller. I know everybody almost always raids now. I rarely am in a show where they don't. But it is a big part of it. And be strategic about your raids. You know, sometimes you raid into a big seller, sometimes you raid into a smaller seller. You know, you decide. And I think we're going to go into, I was trying to find a craft seller because that's what I'm doing today, but it's not bringing me up one. So I'm going to have to go look. So let's go raid into, in the meantime, everyone's like, okay, I'm out of here because you're taking too long to raid. That's another tip. Maybe look ahead to see who's going to be on and, you know, kind of strategically decide your raid. All right, we're going to raid into Valued Crafts, who's selling pop-up paper packs. So that looks good to me. 17 people in the show. So we're going to raid into Value. Let me make sure I pulled it up right. Valued Crafts. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a marvelous day. See you again.